Restaking, or programmable staking, is one of the most exciting new things there is in crypto, but most people have no idea what it actually is. And in this video, I'm gonna dive into exactly what is restaking, so simple that like your mom can understand it, and how to profit from it, including diving into some of my favorite altcoins that I think could massively benefit from this coming restaking narrative shift. Restaking, or programmable staking, was made popular by Eigen Layer, a project that aims to allow restaking for Ethereum validators. Basically put really simply, it would allow other blockchains or apps to build using Ethereum security, but for super cheap. Right now, the vast majority of different blockchains actually operate at a loss. That is, they have to print more tokens than they actually make in profit in order to keep that blockchain going. So, for example, a blockchain like Avalanche is going to have to pay out Avalanche tokens to their validators to keep those validators doing their jobs securing the network. But the Avalanche network itself doesn't make enough profit to cover those expenditures. It'd be like essentially if you owned a business and you were spending $10,000 a day to run that business, but only making $2,000 a day in profit. That is, in essence, how the vast majority of all blockchains operate today. The only exceptions to this rule currently that I know of would be Ethereum currently operates at a $4 billion a year profit, as well as a good chunk of Ethereum layer 2s also operate at a profit because they don't have to actually pay to secure the network because Ethereum secures the network and they're just built on top of Ethereum. But besides those examples, every other blockchain operates at a massive loss, and this is a big issue in the space. Because as these blockchains have to print all these tokens to secure the network, that puts downward pressure, sell pressure on the price of those tokens, pushing the price down. And if that sell pressure were ever to push the price of that token too low, it could almost cause a cascading effect where the validators no longer care to secure the network, and that causes people to lose confidence in the network. So therefore, it pushes the price even further because they're selling their tokens, which again is a cascading effect that causes that token to collapse in price. Restaking, or programmable staking, allows these different chains, apps, oracles to, instead of like bootstrapping their own validator set and having to pay out these things with tons of emissions, to instead use Ethereum's core validator set to secure their chains, oracles, apps, etc. That gives them, for one, the benefit of way more security and decentralization. But it also allows them potentially to reduce the cost of running that blockchain, app, oracle, etc. by over 90%. Now here's where things get really interesting. That means for Ethereum validators, they can not only earn yield for securing Ethereum, but now they could potentially earn yield for securing a bunch of other things. And if you're confused about what an Ethereum validator is, it's basically Ethereum's version of a Bitcoin miner. Anyways, let me give you an example of how this would potentially work. Right now, for securing Ethereum, you make around 4% annually paid out in ETH. Well, let's imagine a new chain called Moonlana launches and opts to use Eigen Layer for restaking. And it offers an additional 4% paid out in its own token if I opt in to also validate it. Now, I'm making 8% annually. 4% paid out in ETH and 4% paid out in this Moonlana token. But why stop there? There's also Ding Dong Chain offering 5% in its token if I opt to secure it. There's Zeus Chain offering 5%, Raven Chain offering 3%, a new Oracle offering 4%, a new cross-chain perps platform offering 2%, and literally hundreds more. Why would I not opt into secure all of these different chains? Pumping my yield up from just originally 4% to 100%, 200%, 500%, 1000%, or maybe even more. This is the concept of restaking. And there are already tokens being made around this concept called liquid restaking tokens. Basically, imagine opting into all of these different things, then creating a token that represents your restaked ETH and all the yield that comes with it. Then imagine all the different DeFi products, yield products, etc. that can be created with that token. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused and think that, well, that sounds a lot like a Ponzi, so restaking must be a Ponzi. But although at first glance that might seem like it's maybe potentially something a little bit dangerous, let me explain how it actually works, because this is something that 99% of people completely misunderstand. When you opt into restaking for extra yield, you 100% control the outcome as the restaker. Typically, the risk with staking comes from what's called slashing conditions, which these conditions are typically don't go do bad things, don't lie, and you won't get your ETH slashed. Remember, the point of validators is to keep chains secure and honest. Basically, imagine really simply you have 5 different friends keeping score for like a game you're playing. And imagine you have everyone keep track of the scores separately, so everyone's writing down what everyone else's scores are. And occasionally throughout the game, you'll all show your scores and compare them to make sure nobody's lying and maybe writing a false score. Now imagine when you go to compare these scores, everyone's scores match. They're all exactly the same, except for Brian sitting over in the corner. Brian, for whatever reason, has his score a lot higher than every other player recorded his score as. And as a consequence of Brian being a dirty friend and just a horrible person trying to cheat at this game, he's gonna have his money slashed. So when he started this game, everyone stuck 20 bucks in a pot and said, hey, as long as you don't cheat, you get your 20 bucks back. But if you cheat, we're gonna take your 20 bucks and we're gonna light it on fire. Well, since Brian cheated, you take his 20 bucks out and you light it on fire. That 20 bucks is gone now. So in this scenario, you control the outcome. You control if you get slashed. All you gotta do is not be a dirtbag and you get to keep your money. But if you decide to cheat, you lose your money. Restaking is the exact same thing. You sign up for slashing conditions where you completely control the outcome. As long as you don't go do bad things and try to cheat, then you're good. You're not gonna lose your money. You're not gonna get slashed. So if you stake for ETH and then you restake for this chain and you restake for that chain and you go restake for 100 chains more, you're not gonna lose that money unless you go out of your way to cheat as a validator and do something you're not supposed to. This is of course very, very different than something like traditional leverage. I hope I'm making this clear because this is something that a lot of people seem to struggle with and grapple with. They don't seem to understand it. And actually I was able to do a podcast with Sriram, the founder of Eigen Layer, and here's what he had to say about all this.
So if people get a little bit spooked by, oh, this is a lot of leverage or something, but I just want to take a minute or two to explain this is fundamentally very different from all other kinds of risk and leverage. Because most times when you're taking a leverage position, you are underwriting more price risk or exaggerated exposure to price risk. You go and take a margin lending position at a 100x margin, the price moves 1%, you lose all your asset. That's what a leverage position is. The risk is purely exogenous. It is coming from the world. That's what the risk. Price moves and then you just get thrown off. And if there's a lot of leverage in the system, it just amplifies it and everybody gets thrown off. But that's not what happens in either an LST or in a liquid restaking token, is because it is simply this guy is reliable. If this node operator is reliable and trustworthy, then he runs A, B, C, D, E, F, G services, is never going to lose his ETH.
It's worth pointing out that Sriram was a professor at the University of Washington. He graduated from the University of California. He did his postdoc at Stanford, where he got his PhD in electrical engineering and a Master of Science in mathematics. He's not just some random guy in his mom's basement who came out of the woodwork to create Eigen Layer. Okay, so to recap, restaking is kind of a huge deal. It enables projects to easily build complex crypto products and chains at a fraction of the cost and using the security of Ethereum. It also enables a new kind of financial product called liquid restaking tokens, which are set to be a hot narrative come this cycle. Now let's talk about how you could potentially benefit from this narrative once it kicks into high gear later in the cycle. I personally invested into quite a few altcoins that I think are primed to benefit massively from the restaking narrative. And I'm going to talk about those in a second, but really quick, I just want to say that I filled up all slots for membership for the Obsidian Council for March, and currently it's now full. The Obsidian Council is my private research community where I share monthly research, my entire portfolio updated monthly, buy and sell alerts when I jump into projects, and a ton more. We've had projects like Akash, which is currently up over 2,000% since sharing it. That's a 20x, or for every $1,000 invested, it's turned into $20,000. We've had projects like Pendle, which is up over 776%. Projects like Lake, which is up over 1,200%. We also have the airdrop guide, which some members made over $26,000 last year from airdrops, covering their entire membership for literally decades. There's also a ton of other stuff, including other research tools and resources. If you missed out and want to be able to jump in next time it opens, there's a wait list in the description of this video. Make sure to sign up. Okay, so let's jump into the top projects that I believe are primed to benefit massively from the restaking narrative. First up, there's Prisma. Prisma's main product is an LST-backed stablecoin. People take their LSTs or liquid stake tokens and lend them out to create a stablecoin backed by their LST position. This is a neat concept similar to something like what Redacted Cartel's doing. However, Prisma doesn't stop there. They're launching a second stablecoin called Ultra, which this stablecoin will be backed by liquid restaking tokens. Prisma currently sits at just $15 million in market cap or 160 million fully diluted value, meaning it's currently super small and low float and has a lot of upside potential. As far as token unlocks for Prisma, currently the token unlocks are scheduled through 2026, with the majority happening this year from what I can tell. However, the tokenomics for Prisma are really similar to something like Curve, meaning most tokens are locked up for voting rights, which accomplish a similar dynamic. Curve is probably the most similar analog to Prisma that there is. In last cycle, it hit around $2 billion in market cap with a fully diluted value of around $10 billion in market cap. So for Prisma, that would be around a 50x from today's prices. Second up, there's EtherFi. EtherFi is a liquid restaking token provider. They allow you to restake your ETH on their platform through Eigen Layer, and they issue you a liquid token called EETH. And currently, they already have over $1 billion in value locked on their platform. EtherFi just airdropped their governance token ETHFi. It's currently sitting at around a $350 million market cap, and they have plans to do a second airdrop a little bit later in this year. Currently, I'm only holding my airdrop position, and I haven't bought any more, but it's definitely one you're going to want to keep an eye on. Third up is Picasso. Picasso is trying to enable cross-ecosystem IBC for Ethereum, Solana, and more. Meaning basically they're trying to achieve some sort of interoperability between all these ecosystems to an extent. But on top of all that, Picasso also recently announced that they were launching cross-chain restaking starting with Solana. And I was actually able to do a full podcast episode with the Picasso team if you want to go check it out on my podcast, the Never Die podcast. But long story short, I think that Picasso is potentially primed to benefit from this restaking narrative, especially for those people that are maybe a little bit more bullish on something like Solana. And added to all this, it's currently kind of difficult to get the Pika token, the token for Picasso. Currently, the only way to get it is to go to Osmosis and buy it. There's no exchanges besides Gate.io that list this. So I expect that when they get an exchange listing, we'll see some serious price appreciation. Picasso is currently sitting at just $39 million in market cap, and it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Fourth up is Redacted Cartel. Redacted is basically the same thing as Prisma, but they have a bunch of different products as well. And currently they haven't announced any sort of liquid restaking play, but my bet is that they eventually do. In my view, I cannot see an outcome where they ignore liquid restaking tokens, and I think similar to what Prisma did, they're going to launch some sort of second stablecoin, or maybe they're going to use it with their first stablecoin, but in some way they're going to back their stablecoin, either a new one or their current one, with liquid restaking tokens in the exact same way that Prisma is doing. Again, they haven't confirmed that, but that's my belief. Currently, Redacted is sitting at around $79 million in market cap, so they're still decently small and have a lot of upside potential from here. Last up is Swell. Swell is really similar to EtherFi, and it's really similar to something like Lido. They have liquid staking tokens like Lido, and they also have liquid restaking tokens like EtherFi. They also have plans to launch their own Layer 2 blockchain plugged into Polygon's Eigen Layer. Currently, Swell's token isn't out yet. You could potentially earn an airdrop by going on their platform and depositing ETH. And for me, that's my current play. I have a bunch of ETH deposited on Swell. I'm waiting to earn that airdrop. And depending on the market cap of that token when it comes out, that'll determine if I want to allocate more capital in there or if I want to end up selling the airdrop that I made. And outside of those ones, there are other plays. There's Kelp, there's Puffer. There's a bunch of platforms that are kind of jumping into this liquid restaking play. This is absolutely a narrative in a space you're going to want to keep an eye on because there's a lot more at play here that I think most people recognize on the surface. And again, if you want to go more in depth on restaking, I have an entire podcast with Sriram, the founder of Eigen Layer, where we go into all kinds of details on restaking, how it works, the risks, the things that people commonly misunderstand. This is definitely a concept you're going to want to be familiar with going into this cycle. As always, none of this is investment advice. None of this is me telling you to go buy these tokens. You should always do your own research. You're an adult. You got to do your own research. You got to make your own decisions before you randomly jump into tokens that you hear about on YouTube. You should never do that if you want to win. You always got to put in the work. There are no shortcuts when it comes to investing in crypto. If this video is helpful, make sure to hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments or anything that you think I missed that should have been in this video, let me know in the comment section. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.